So thanks everyone for joining today. This is our lesson 2, our week 2 of the 10-week course. And today we're really going to dive deep with on-page SEO optimization. So just to kind of give you an idea where we are with the course. So week 1, we really just kind of breezed over several topics. Just a few things that I wanted you all to kind of be familiar with before we dove deeper into these individual topics. So for week 2, you see it says here on-page optimization and technical SEO. But for today, we're really just going to focus on the on-page part and move technical SEO to week 3. Because I think there's enough content there for both topics that they have their own session. So just kind of a brief roadmap of what we're going to cover today. So just we're going to do a quick recap of week 1. So just kind of go over some of the key topics that are important for this week. After that, we're going to go into some tips on how to create good content, which is very important for SEO. And then after that, we're going to go over different best practices for on-page SEO. So some of this is going to be repeated, a small percentage of it, but as I said before, we're going to dive a lot deeper into some best practices. And then number 4, we're actually going to look at a page on my website. It's a test page. And pretty much I want to show you all exactly how do you optimize for these different on-page elements that we're going to go over. And then finally, I'll open up to Q&A, but of course, if you have questions as we go along, we are, feel free to interrupt me to ask. And then finally, we're going to go over the homework assignments. So before we get started, I hear you guys have some homework questions. How did that go?
We scored a perfect 10.
Yeah, I heard. Good stuff. So that was definitely all you. So yeah, you guys pay good attention. It sounds like, so good stuff. Let's keep it up. So recap of week 1. So keywords, we went over keywords and fathead keywords and long tail keywords, and pretty much they set the tone of your page. They're going to be kind of the starting point when you're looking at optimizing a page for SEO, because they govern what's in your page title, what's in your meta description, what's in the content itself, and just pretty much what you're trying to get that page to rank for on Google. We also talked about content and how content is a very important part of a good SEO strategy. It's very difficult in 2018 and beyond to do well with SEO if you're not creating good content. Again, we talked about different on-page elements of SEO of a web page. So we talked about the page title, heading tags, specifically heading 1 and heading 2 tags. We talked a bit about images, and we also talked about meta descriptions. So before we move on, does anyone have any questions about any of this as far as what we talked about last week?
No.
Okay, great. So I left out something intentionally here. So I just want to make sure that we all understand kind of the entire process from understanding, who you're targeting and, creating a piece of content and optimizing it. So Jonah, why don't you tell me what's the missing step here? And to give you a hint, is that it actually comes before keywords.
Can you say the question again?
Sure. So before you even research keywords or target keywords, how do you know which keywords to target? What's missing there? Anyone? No? Okay, so before you target your keywords, and we only mentioned this briefly last week, you need to make sure you understand the target audience, right? who are you writing for? So let's say, Jonah, you might have a blog about finger painting. I don't know. And Jarek, you might have a blog about sports cars. Obviously, since your blogs target two different audiences, you don't want to use the same set of keywords. So you need to make sure that your keywords, your content, all addresses and targets your target audience. So before, it'll kind of be step 0 here. It would be understanding your customer avatar. So your customer avatar, again, is really a real life representation of who your website is targeting. So, I'll pick on Joy now. So Joy, what are one of your passions, one of your hobbies outside of work?
Singing.
Singing? Okay, awesome. So let's say, Joy, I know we all have our websites. Let's say for your website, you want to focus on teaching people how to sing better, right? So you would start with your target audience, your target customer avatar. So any idea who would that be? Like, who would want to learn how to sing better?
People how to don't know how to sing.
Right, so I'll help you out there a bit. So some folks who might want to learn how to sing, maybe they sing in their church choir and they want to, I don't know, get a solo. So they'll have to improve their singing ability in order to get their solo. Let's say you have a young person, maybe there's a teenager, and they want to become a professional singer. They want to become a star. They would definitely have to work on their skill set and be able to improve their vocals in order to, reach that level. Maybe someone, they just want to do something nice for their girlfriend or boyfriend. So they want to be able to really harmonize a few tunes and able to impress their significant other. That's maybe are some folks that you would want to target with a singing website, right? Right. Okay, so kind of moving on. So how do you build that customer avatar? So the customer avatar is pretty much, it's also called a customer persona. It's pretty much a profile of who you expect to reach your website, who you expect to visit your website. So again, going back to Joy's example, let's say her website was about how to sing better. Of course, we already know someone who might be reading her website is maybe a young person who's looking to become a celebrity, looking to become a famous singer. So what are their goals and values? So you want to make sure you understand their goals and values. So their goals and values, simply, they want to become a better singer. They want to become famous. They want to really be able to impact the world with their singing ability. So a real good way to kind of hone down on, drive the point here is, okay, at a service level, they want to become a better singer, but why do they want to become a better singer? Well, they want to be able to impact people across the world. Why? Because it makes people feel good. Why? Because everyone likes a good singer or likes hearing a really nice song. Why? Because it makes them feel good. So I think you kind of get the point there that you always want to ask, why would someone come to your website? Why would they want to read your content? So those are, how you would answer the goals and values section here. The sources of information. So again, going back to Joy's example, someone looking to sing better, kind of think about the books, the magazines, the other blogs and websites that they would visit or read to become a better singer. So they might, for singing, they might go to YouTube to, look at different vocal coaching videos. There might be some professional singing coaches in their area that have a website, And maybe, every week or every month they put out a blog with tips on how to improve your vocals. Those are the type of websites that they have the goal of becoming a better singer that they would probably look at. And also conferences, gurus. So if they're like any experts in their field, then obviously they will want to follow those experts. And then for singers, you might want to go after people who are, really good at their craft. So maybe they're not the most famous, but they're really technically sound. They really know how to put together a good song. So those would be considered your gurus. Your challenges and pain points. So a good way to think about challenges and pain points, what's keeping that person from achieving their goal? So right now, for someone who's looking to learn how to sing, they don't have all of the technical skill or know-how to do a really good performance or to, put together a really well-produced song. So that's their challenge, just know-how and knowledge. What are their pain points? So what keeps them up at night? What keeps them, concerned about being able to reach that goal of becoming a famous singer? So those are your pain points. And then objections. So this is, if you were selling something on your website, but some objections that people might have, Joy, from visiting your website about how to sing is, what is your credibility? Are you a good singer yourself? Why should I listen to you? So Joy, can you sing?
What do you want to see?
So just teasing there, but if you have a website on teaching people how to sing, well, the starting point, you should probably know how to sing yourself, right? So that would probably be your main objection there. And so again, and then the avatar name, you want to actually give this person a name. So, we can say this is Jarek who wants to sing a really nice song for his girlfriend or significant other. So that can actually be the avatar name, Jarek. You'll give that person an age. So let's say Jarek is, 22. He wants to, how old are you, Jarek, by the way?
How old are you? I'm 28.
28. So let's say Jarek is 28. He's a male, marital status. Let's just say for this example, he's single. And then number of age or children might not really matter in this case. Location. So all of you all are in the Philippines. So specific things that would really resonate with people who are in the Philippines who are reading your blog, right? And then, just some other things. What is their occupation, their job title, how much money do they make, level of education, and so forth. And really the idea here, guys, is that you want to create this profile and you want to know the person that you're writing for, that you're targeting your website to, like the back of your hand. That way you know the type of content topics that they're going to really like to read about. You're going to know their pain points and their challenges and write content that helps answer those pain points and challenges. You're going to know the target keywords that they're looking for on Google and on social media. You're going to know that, let's say, Joy, if you, in addition to your website, you also offered, vocal coaching lessons, you're going to know how to price your course so that they can afford it. And that's really why you want to create this client avatar, to get a full picture of who you're targeting. So any questions there? Okay. And so this is just a simple example. I won't go over all of this, but you all can definitely go over it after the session. But Agency Jimmy, so this is a person who is a digital marketing agency owner. And it just kind of goes through what would be some of his goals, values, sources of information, and so forth. And this would kind of help you get an idea of how you would build out a customer avatar. And it might be the case that, for your particular website or whoever you're targeting, you might have multiple customer avatars. So big companies, let's say Apple, for example, they may have different people that they're targeting with their ads, with their website, with their content. So they would build out multiple avatars for each of those profiles that they're targeting. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, great. So moving on. So this is actually going to be the end result after we do all the slides these next few slides that we're going to go over. But you want to make sure that you plan your content and always go back to your customer avatar and making sure that you're addressing what they need with your website. And that way you can make sure that more people will come to your website. They'll probably be more likely to share your content on social media. And you want people to not only just visit your website once, you want them to keep coming back. That's really how you build your website traffic and you improve your ranking over time. So, question, does anyone remember the name of this document? We went over it last week. Dia, why don't you help us out here?
You're asking for the name of the document?
Yeah, so what is this called? And I'll give you a hint. The first word in the name is keyword.
The keyword everywhere, right?
Not quite. Close. So this document is called a keyword map. So basically, yes. So basically, this is a document where you can kind of organize your different topics, your keywords that you're targeting for each of those topics, and then you can even organize your title tag for each of those topics. So again, the name of this document is the keyword map. Yep. So moving on, so keyword research. So now that we know the customer avatar, we know who we're writing content for, now we can start talking about keyword research. So does anyone remember any of the ways we can research keywords? Dia just said one, with keywords everywhere. There were three other tools that we talked about last week. Jarek, you have one.
Google Suggest.
Yep. Google Suggest. Okay, so that's two. So we have three. Anyone remember the last one?
Keyword everywhere.
Keywords everywhere. Okay, we already said that one. So what is the last one? Remember, it's the website with the weird looking guy in the background. Jenna, you're being quiet back there. Why don't you try to answer?
Answer the public.
Answer the public. There you go. So Google Suggests, keywords everywhere. That's a Chrome extension. Answer the public, and Uber Suggests. So good job. Good job. So once you so we're going to skip that step. So assuming that you've already did your keyword research with these tools, now it's time to actually figure out the topic that you're going to write about. So a few things you want to look at when trying to figure out your content topic. You want to figure out what's trending, what is being shared on social media, and what is ranking and receiving traffic. So kind of going back to Joy's example, let's just stick with singing lessons. So let's go. So I'm actually going to share my browser here. And we're going to use a tool called Ahrefs. And one of your homework assignments is going to be to sign up for a free account. And that should be good enough to get you what you need for the other homework assignments. So let's say we're going to use a keyword topic. So let's just say our keyword was singing lessons. And while that loads, so once you're in Ahrefs, you want to go to Content Explorer. This is going to be the Content Explorer module. And so basically what this tool does, it pretty much pulls out every article, video related to this phrase, singing lessons, and it gives you a lot of important data on it. So it'll tell you how many times it's been shared on social media. It'll tell you on average how much traffic it gets per month. And then it'll also give you what's called the domain rating and referring domains, which we won't get into too much today, but those just are important metrics to know. So let's say, let's kind of filter down our search results. So we only want, let's see here. So we only want content topics from the last year, right? And let's say the metric that we want to sort by, let's sort by number, let's sort by search traffic. So which of these, actually let's sort by total shares. So which of these is most popular on social media?
The first result.
I'm sorry?
It's the first article on the top.
Yep. Yeah, so once we do the sorted by total shares, so these are the shares combined from Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. So it seems like this article, Todd Hoffman from Gold Rush sings the sound. So basically this guy from a show, he's singing. So it really, you have to figure out, okay, so if we want to target the keyword singing lessons, you know, which of these topics, you know, is popular but will also be relevant to our audience. So, you know, maybe a good content topic would be, you know, something from this particular article. So Todd Hoffman, he seems to be a famous singer or a famous celebrity. You know, maybe a content topic would be something like 5 tips we can glean from Todd Hoffman's performance. So 5 singing tips, 5 singing tips we can learn from Todd Hoffman's performance on Gold Rush. That would be a good topic because not only is it relevant to your audience, but it's also kind of referencing a celebrity. So people would click on it just because it's a celebrity. So that's one way. That's one way you can figure out what's trending on the web for your keyword. And then going back to our presentation here. So what is being shared on social media? So we've already covered that. So we sorted by the total number of shares on social media, and we saw that that Todd Hoffman article was shared the most. Number 3, what is ranking and what is receiving traffic? And so this is a little bit of a different strategy. So we see here, for organic traffic, and this is definitely not the total traffic that this particular web page receives, but it has 4. So you can kind of see if you go down, so this topic had 4 visitors per month. This topic has less than 1. This topic actually has 1,000 visitors, but it may not be relevant, you know, unless you can kind of figure out, you know, how you can match Miriam Mazzi with singing lessons. It might not be relevant, but you kind of just go down a list here and see which topics are getting the most traffic. And then of course, if you wanted to target a different language, you can just go here and, you know, if there's an article in that language, you can find it here. So these are all just different filters you can look at. Let's say you didn't have Ahrefs and you only had Google. So kind of just using our same keyword singing lessons, you want to make sure that, so first, let's type in our keyword singing lessons. And so what's interesting, you'll notice that this big map here, it shows my city, Houston. And so if you were to Google this from your end, you'll never get this search result because you're not close to Houston. So if anything, it'll be something close to your city. But one important thing here, we only want to return results from the last year. So you'll go to Tools, and you'll click Anytime, and let's do past year. You also have the option to do the past month, or even do the custom range option. So you just, let's say you only wanted to pull search results from the last 6 months, you can do that with the custom range option. And let's just say we want to do past year. So you can see here, these are some of the web pages that are ranking really well that were published within the last year. So since October 2017. You can kind of see some of the topics that are working. So online singing lessons that work. Learn how to sing in only 30 days. That's really catchy because the promise is if I read this article, I would know how to sing in 30 days. Now, Joy, is that something you can do on your website? So yeah, so they're actually using some really good marketing tactics in its headline that we'll go over in a bit. But if you just kind of scroll down the list here, maybe you want to have a if you were offering singing lessons, you wanted to have a before and after page. So show a video where someone didn't sing very well before they started with your lessons, and then show an after video where they sing great. That would be a really good topic to cover. Some other tips. So you'll see here there's actually some videos. So instead of an actual blog article, maybe you just create a video, and then you have like a #1 tip for beginners who are singers. Then maybe another video about, can singing lessons change my voice permanently? Then maybe even another one, 8 things to know before signing your kids up for singing lessons. So really the key takeaway here, everyone, is that by using Ahrefs, by using Google, you can kind of figure out which topics are working very well. And then not only, you don't just want to copy that topic, but you want to figure out how you can make it better, right? So for example, one good way that you can make this topic better, 8 things to know before signing your kids up for singing lessons. Maybe instead of 8, maybe do 16 things to know before signing your kids up for singing lessons. So making your article more comprehensive and more complete compared to what's already out there on Google is always a good strategy when you're producing good content. And then finally, so we've gone through Ahrefs, we're going through a simple Google search. So if you want to figure out maybe what's going on more recently, you can also look at Google News. So just go to news.google.com, and let's see what happens if we put singing lessons in here. So you'll just see some different topics that may or may not be relevant, but you can kind of see these are the stories that are in the news. So for whatever reason, they're important enough that these different news publications thought it was worthwhile to cover them in their news websites. Yeah, so maybe this is a good one. What are some life lessons you can learn from singing? That would be a good one to pursue. Yeah. So any questions there, guys? I just want to make sure you understand that the important part, before we even get into on-page SEO and keyword targeting, the important part is really producing that good content. And these are ways that you can find good content topics. So any questions on that before we move forward? Okay. So we keep moving forward. So the role of competitive research. So Jen, I'm going to ask you. So we just kind of talked about how we research different articles or different topics, once we have our target keywords and know our customer avatar. But, we also need to see what else is out there ranking well for our target keyword. Now, why do you think we would want to know that?
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. So step one, we created our customer avatar. Step two, we figured out some keywords that we could target that customer avatar with. Step three is that we've already done some research on topics. And step four, we actually want to do some competitive research. So what my question is, why do you think it's important to do competitive research?
So you would know what your competitors targeting.
I couldn't quite hear. Can someone repeat that?
So you will know what your competitors targeting.
Exactly. That's a good point. Good point. Anything else? Anyone?
You can create a more effective keyword.
So did I hear, so know more about the keywords?
They can create a better strategies.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Was that Jarek? So when you're doing competitive research, the whole idea here is, the ultimate goal is that once you do all these steps and do the on-page SEO, you want to have people come to your website. You want people to read your articles, read your website. So the goal is to get that page to rank well. And so pretty much what you can do to kind of have a blueprint on what it takes to rank well for that keyword is to see what's already ranking well out there on page one. So these are just some of the ways you can do competitive research. So look at the subheadings for ranking pages, review the word count for ranking pages, and look at a website like Ahrefs to see the keywords that competing pages ranking for. And then note any patterns with the first page of the search results. So as we just saw when we did the search for singing lessons, we saw some examples where people have videos. So again, instead of maybe writing out a blog article, maybe you produce or create a video on YouTube instead. Maybe that would be a better option. But I'll go over the first three. But these are just some different ways you can quickly figure out that once you have your avatar, your target keyword, and your content topic, what are some different things you can add to make your content better than your competitors? So going back to the Google Chrome browser, so let's just open the first few here, right? So this is where we're going to figure out, okay, these pages are ranking number 1, number 2, and number 3. So for whatever reason, there's something that they're doing correctly that Google likes, and let's try to figure out what that is. So these might take a little bit longer to load because we're sharing, so let's just be patient here. So School of Rock, right? So let's see, what could they be doing that's getting them to rank well? Well, first, they, since we're targeting vocals, we can see here on their page, they're talking about key concepts. So they're talking about technique, they're talking about harmony, they're talking about power, and then they're also talking about reading music. So the way you would use that information, these are all subtopics that you might want to cover in your article about singing lessons, right? Because, if you cover all of these topics, it allows you to be very thorough when you're writing your content. But they're talking about beginner singing lessons. Let's see what else. They also have a section here about advanced singing lessons. So maybe in your article, Joy, you would talk about, okay, these are some things that you should consider if you're just a beginner. But these are some things, once you've had some experience, that you should consider if you're an advanced singer. And then they're also talking about singing lessons based on your age. So you see here they have singing lessons for preschoolers, for kids, so maybe after preschool but before high school, singing lessons for teenagers, and singing lessons for adults. And that's really important because depending on how old you are, there might be certain things that you need to consider when trying to improve your singing ability. So very important that if we were writing an article about singing lessons, that we touch on each of these subtopics. So learn to sing, voice coaches near me. Maybe that's not relevant to our article, but very important here. So FAQs. And so this is where you really want to pay attention. So what is the best age to start singing lessons for kids? And you can see here, they provide a really good answer. So for FAQ section, anytime you see an FAQ section where you're doing competitive research, you want to really try to use that same question, but try to provide a better, more thought out answer. So you can see here, they provided like a, one paragraph. Maybe for your article, you provide 2 paragraphs, so you are more detailed in your answer. You see here they're also talking about how much do singing lessons cost. So let's just say Joy's singing lessons, they're going to cost $300 per month. And so, yeah, pretty much answer that question, because if someone is looking for singing lessons, then that's the next question they're going to have. How much do your lessons cost? So very important that you answer that question. The School of Rock offers singing lessons for 4-year-olds. So that's very specific, but obviously they must be getting that question if they include it here on their page. So make sure that you add that to your page as well. And then pretty much the same idea for all of these. So you just want to make sure that you're answering these questions and kind of looking at how these other websites are answering the question, but really going one step beyond that. Okay, any questions there? Okay. And then just some other things to kind of look at here. Just look at how they're using their images. So they have this really nice image here at the top. They have some other images kind of scattered out throughout the page. So this tells me that this is something that Google deemed worthy enough to rank #1. Then you should also be including images on your page. So that's how you can kind of figure out what Google likes for a particular search phrase, and then it's called reverse engineer what's already working for this website. And I won't go over the second and third website. It's pretty much going to be the same process, but usually I do the top 3 or top 5 websites and just try to combine those ideas when I'm producing some content for my website. Okay. So we did that. So that was #1. #2, pretty important, look at the word count for ranking pages. So before I show the example, word count is really important. So on average, your page, your #1 search result is going to average 2,400 words. So Google, the search engines really value it's called long form content. So they don't want like just a brief paragraph of you explaining something. They want something well thought out, you included detail about that particular topic. So 2,400, that's the average. What I tend to do is take the average of the top search results. So in our example, I would take the average of this page, take the average of this page, and then take the average of this page. And I use a tool called the bulk web page word counter checker. And in that tool, you just plug in the URLs and they'll tell you the average word count for that URL. And don't worry about writing the tool down. I'll share this in the resources folder for the homework assignment. But you want to make sure that you have an idea on the word count for each of the websites that are ranking well. Now, make sure you guys are listening. What is the average word count for a #1 search result? No, we're going to go with, who's that? So let's go with Joy. So the average, so the #1 search result, what is the average word count?
2,400.
2,400. Very good. Very good. Dia, you helped her out. Yeah, so 2,400. Okay. And so that's number 2. So number 3, you can also look at a website like Ahrefs to see which keywords that competing page is ranking for. So Jarek, I think this was you that mentioned you want to look at your competing web pages because it helps you kind of figure out the strategy you can use for your own page. So if we plug in, so let's just use the first example. If we plugged in schoolofrockmusic.com, their singing lessons page, if we plug that in here, it'll tell us a few of the keywords that they're ranking for. So we actually have to go back to Site Explorer. And then we plug in a URL. So go to Site Explorer and then click Search. So these guys are actually ranking for 822 different keywords. So there's definitely some ideas you can get from that. So let's just go to organic keywords.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is it okay to use the keywords that your competitors are using and add it to your own website?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely, absolutely. That's definitely, when you're doing keyword research, you want to figure out what keywords are your competitors using, and you'll actually use Ahrefs for that part. So yeah, that's a good question, Dia, and that's definitely something you want to include. So you see here, this is just going to be a sample, but what this list shows us are the different keywords that this particular website, this particular page is ranking for. So of course they're ranking well for singing lessons, voice lessons near me, voice lessons, singing lessons, vocal lessons. So there's going to be a lot of repetitive phrases here. But the key idea here is that you want to just take a quick look here to build your keyword list so that you make sure that you're targeting the right keywords. And then this also provides some different metrics. So KD, that stands for keyword difficulty. So if you have a brand new website, you want to target keywords that are low, have a low KD. And that's on a scale of 0 to 100. So it looks like singing lessons, it has a large search volume, 9,500, but it has a very low keyword difficulty. So that might be a keyword that you want to go after. Traffic is the actual average number of people who visit their web page and who are looking for this particular keyword. So that's another important metric to look at. So yeah, definitely, Dia, going back to your question, you want to use this list to kind of build your keyword list for your own website. Okay. So that's keyword research and Ahrefs. And then we already went over number 4. So number 4, again, going back to the search result, just looking at what type of pages are being on the first page. So we see that there are some articles, but at the bottom here, we also saw that there were some videos. So also a good idea to maybe do a video for this particular keyword. Okay, any questions on that before we move forward? Okay, we're good? Okay. Sorry, talked about that. So best practices for writing good content. So this is actually something we went over last week. So does anyone remember like any of like those good best practices? Now I'll give you a hint here. So one was read out the content out loud to yourself or a friend just to make sure it makes sense. Does anyone remember anything else? All right, number 2. So you use a tool like the Hemingway app to look at the reading level. Okay. Any ideas?
Avoid using numerical.
What was that?
Avoid using numerical characters.
I couldn't quite hear. Sorry.
Don't use numbers and other.
Yeah. So use numberless. Good job.
Use hyphens to separate words.
So number 4, I'll finish this list up for you guys. So number 4, make sure you categorize your keywords and use a mix of primary keywords, so fathead keywords is what we called it last week, and secondary keywords or long tail keywords. And that's really that keyword map that I showed you before. That's going to be the best way to categorize your keywords. And then number 5, match the searcher's intent. So you want to make sure that whatever that person is looking for, that you match their intent. So kind of going back to our example with singing lessons. So it tells me that for singing lessons that, you know, some people, the reason why these videos are showing up is because some people would prefer a video when doing singing lessons versus reading an article. Because with a video, you can actually kind of demonstrate, you know, a vocal technique or something. So when I say searcher's intent, that's what I mean. Figuring out what they're looking for. Is it an article? Is it a video? Is it a picture? And pretty much producing that for them. And the one easy way you'll figure out the searcher's intent is just to see what is ranking on page 1 of Google. And number 6, incorporating images, videos, and infographics into your content. You want to make your content a pleasure to read. No one likes to read just a giant block of text, so try to mix it up with images, buttons, videos, infographics, and so forth. Okay? So moving on to our next slide. So first, we're going to go over some of the best practices for on-page SEO. So we're kind of making a transition here from the content piece to actual on-page SEO. So we're going to go over some of the best practices, and then after we go over the best practices, I'm going to show you on a test page on my website exactly where you're going to make those changes for your on-page SEO. So let's start with page titles. So page titles, again, just so you guys know what we're talking about here, it's going to be this little, if you guys see this little box that popped up, so the page title for that website is Singing Lessons, and then the little pipe symbol, and then School of Rock. So that's going to be your page title. So keep these points in mind when you're optimizing for page titles. You want to keep the page title between 30 and 65 characters. And I wouldn't worry about writing this down right now. You'll have the deck to kind of refer back to later. Number 2, you want to keep your primary keyword as close to the front of the page title as possible. So let's say going back to our singing lesson, learning how to sing example with Joy's website, and our primary keyword there was singing lesson. So you want to make sure that singing lesson is at the front. So maybe singing lesson, 7 tips to become a better singer. That would be a really good optimized page title. Number 3, you want to include your website or your brand name at the end of your page title. So Jarek, what are one of your hobbies outside of work?
I like to take photographs.
Photographs, that's a good one. So photography. So let's say your primary keyword was photography lessons for beginners. So you would put that here in front of the pipe symbol. And then at the latter half, we'll just pretend this is your photography company. So Jarek's Photography Company. And that will actually be at the end of your page title. And you want to make sure that you keep that consistent, your brand, your company name, at the end of every page title on your website. And then you want to make sure that each page on your website has a unique title. So these are things that you can catch in Screaming Frog. It was the software that you were to download last week. But you want to make sure that each page on your site has its own title, so no duplicate titles. And so I just kind of gave you the answer there, but what software can you use to check those? Someone just said it. This is software you downloaded last week for homework.
Frog?
Yep, Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog. Okay, so those are the technical aspects of optimizing for SEO, right? But the thing about good SEO, it's one part technical, so doing all of the technical things right, but then it's also an art because it is a form of marketing. So outside of the technical things that you can fix and check with software like Screaming Frog, you also want to incorporate different sales and marketing tactics. So here are a few. So again, you want to satisfy your searcher intent, right? So you have tofu, mofu, and bofu. And that stands for top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. And I won't get into too much detail about that here. I'll share a really good guide on that. It'll be part of one of your homework assignments. But let's see, I had it up here. Here we go. So tofu, mofu, bofu. So you can think when someone is looking for something to buy online, you can think about it as a funnel, right? And so at the top of the funnel, tofu stands for top of funnel. You have the awareness stage. So let's use Jarek's example now for photography. So let's say that Jarek also offers photography lessons. So at the top of the funnel, someone might know that they have an interest in photography, and they may be, they're looking to kind of teach themselves. They're not ready to work with an expert. They're just kind of looking for some general advice on how to take better pictures, right? So that would be your awareness stage. Top of funnel is called your awareness stage. Now, let's say, okay, they've tried it out taking pictures for a year or so. They really want to take the next step and be able to take good enough pictures where they can publish them online, they can publish them in magazines, and even possibly make a career out of photography. So that would be your middle of a funnel. So they're at this stage now. So they know they need extra help, and now they might be looking at Jarek's company, they might be looking at other nearby companies, and they're really trying to figure out, okay, which of these experts would be the best to work with to take my photography skills to the next level. And so MOFU, that stands for middle of the funnel, and that's your consideration stage. And then finally, you have BOFU, which stands for bottom of the funnel. And this is the stage where they're ready to buy. They already have their money saved up. They know exactly what they're looking for in a photography coach. And now they're really making a hard decision. Okay, is Jarek the right coach for me? That's where they're going to make that buying decision. So I won't get into the after purchase part here, but the reason why I'm sharing this, guys, is that for each stage of this funnel, you want to have different types of content. And I'll share, in the guide that I share, it'll kind of go more into detail about that, but you want to have different types of content. And then that's going to trickle all the way down to the type of page titles that you use for your content. So, for example, someone who is just looking for general advice on how to be a better photographer, example page title would be 7 ways to take more vibrant photographs. That would be a good example. But let's say someone is ready to work with a photography expert. A good page title there would be 5 things to look for in a photography expert. So depending on where they are in the funnel, you want to make sure that your page title reflects that. So number 2, use power words. So Jonah, any idea what I might mean by power word?
Catchy word. Something like catchy word.
I couldn't quite hear you. Dia, can you help me out?
Something like a catchy word.
Perfect. That's a really good point. So action words. So power words are words that really, they drive action. They evoke emotion. When someone sees a power word, they are ready to do something. So I'm going to actually provide you guys with a list of really good power words. And that once you start writing content for your individual websites, I want you to use those power words in your page titles. So number 3, good secret sauce for page titles. You want to use modifiers like the year, top, best. So going back to Jarek's example with the photography website, a good modifier to use would be, these are the 7 best ways to take better photographs. So very simple, but when someone sees the word best, it's like their eyes light up. They're going to be more interested in reading what you have to say. Number 4, you want to emphasize freshness with phrases like new, updated for the year, or new data. So Jarek, let's say, if you have a photography website, something you might want to talk about are really good cameras that people can go out and purchase to take good photographs. So we're getting close to 2019. So maybe a content topic that you would write about would be 2019 best cameras for beginner photographers. And what that does, of course, people, if they're in the market, they're ready to buy a new camera. They want to buy the most updated camera with the best features. They don't want to buy something from, 1999 that's really old and, has really bad features, or out-of-date features, I should say. So when they see the year, that definitely entices them to click. Use the H&W strategy. And this is pretty much in your page title, you want to include one of these words: how, what, why, when, where, who. So again, Jarek, for a photography website, maybe you have something like, where are the best places in the Philippines to take ocean view photos? That would be, one way you can use one of these words in your page title. Number 6, show comprehensiveness with phrases like complete, ultimate, and comprehensive. So again, I'm going to keep using a photography example. So let's say, one article, Jarek, you teach people how to actually develop their own photography. So they don't take it to, somewhere where they actually do I forget what you call it, where you actually make the picture. What is it called, Jarek?
What?
It's like the process where they kind of go into a dark room and they actually make the photo. Like, it's like they're the, what is it?
Red light.
Red light, yeah. So red light, I think, yeah, it's like where they actually develop the photos. So they use like the ink and whatnot. Yeah. So maybe, if you have the ultimate website on photography, Jarek, you want to have an article that says the comprehensive guide or ultimate guide to developing your own photos. That's something that a photographer, someone who's interested in photography, would definitely want to know about. Number 7, emphasize speed with words like simple, fast, quick. So another photography example. These are 3 quick ways you can become a photographer in 24 hours. So what are some like really easy tips that, you know, if they read your tips and then they went out and did them, they would instantly have better pictures. So people always like easy and fast. So definitely try to find ways to emphasize speed. Number 8, break the viewer's patterns. So this is where you can get really creative. So you can use special symbols like brackets, curly brackets, parentheses, and equal signs. So when someone is reading a page title, and I'll go back to the search results here so you can see, you know, for the most part, they're using words, right? But let's say one of these guys, instead of a word, they use, like this guy, they actually use brackets. So see how it kind of stands out compared to everything else? These guys, they use this big long dash here. So it kind of just stands out among everything else. You want to try to find ways to incorporate that into your page titles. See how these guys, they use an exclamation mark. So it just kind of jumps off the page. And then the last tip, you know, you also want to use actual numbers. So these guys, they actually did a good example. So not only do they offer a good promise, learn how to sing in only 30 days, but they actually use the number 30. So it just stands out a little bit when you are looking through the search results here. And kind of going back to where we were. So one of your homework assignments, there's a headline analyzer tool from the American Marketing Institute. And basically what this thing does, you can plug in the tool, or plug in your headline, and it'll actually give you a grade on how good your headline is, basically. So it'll be very difficult to incorporate all of these things into one page title, but try to incorporate multiple. And, you know, those are, you're really positioning your page to, you know, get those clicks. So any questions there before we move on? Okay. So best practices for on-page SEO for meta description. So let's see, who we haven't heard from in a while. Jana, what is a meta description? All right, so I'll help you out. I'll help you out here. So can you kind of point out here, what is the meta description? I'll zoom in here a bit.
Which one? The first website?
Yeah, sure. For the first one, what part would be the meta description?
Master your voice with singing lessons at Syllabus.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. Yep, that's it. You get a bonus for this week. Well, you'll have to ask Ben about that. Okay, so yeah, so for your meta description, that's that little snippet under the search result. So you want to keep these points in mind. So you want to keep your meta description between 70 and 156 characters. And this is to make sure that it's not too long and it's not cut off. Number 2, you want to make sure you include your primary keyword somewhere in the meta description. So going back to Joy's example, we were targeting as our primary keyword singing lessons. You want to make sure that singing lessons is actually somewhere in the meta description. Number 3, you want to ensure that each page on your website has a unique meta description. So if you have 5 pages on your website, each of those pages should not only have a unique page title, but they should have a unique meta description. And then, you know, of course, just like with the page titles, the technical part you can check with Screaming Frog. And so just as we did kind of some secret things, secret sauce for page titles, you also want to have some secret sauce for your meta descriptions. So just incorporating sales and marketing tactics. So you want to mention your target demographic. So let's use another example. Dia, what's one of your hobbies outside of work?
Watching Korean series.
Watching what?
Korean series.
Korean series. Okay. Okay. Cool, cool. Are you a K-pop fan? Yeah, okay, okay. So let's say let's say our site was about Korean pop culture. It was just a pop culture website, right? But we kind of wanted to target working moms. So moms who they might have children, they might have jobs, they don't have time to keep up with everything new going on in Korean pop culture. So in your meta description for your website, you might want to mention that. So check out Dia's Korean pop culture blog, the best place for working moms to get up to date on Korean pop. You know, something like that. Number 2. So you want to include a call to action to direct users to the next step. So a very simple one would be click here to learn. So for Dia's website, click here to learn more about the latest updates in Korean pop. You know, something like that. But the key part there is click here to learn. So you want to have them take some type of action, whether that's click here to learn more, click here to read more. You want to have some type of call to action there. And number 3, again, try including pattern interrupts. So try adding numbers to your meta description. Try adding different symbols, different equal signs, for example, parentheses, for example. Just something that's out of the norm. And so this is just one important thing to note about SEO. Meta descriptions, they don't have a direct impact on SEO. So when Google crawls your website, they're looking at your page title, but they don't necessarily look at your meta description. However, meta descriptions can impact your click-through rate. Now, that's a tough question. Does anyone remember what click-through rate means?
CTR.
Say that again?
It's the CTR.
The odd?
CTR.
Okay. It's okay. I think I talked about it like 10 seconds last time. So click-through rate is basically where, okay, let's say for Dia's website, we have 100 people who search for that phrase, Korean pop for working moms. 100 people search for that phrase a day. And let's say out of those 100 people, 10 people actually click through to your website. So what that looks like, we'll do a little math here. So what that will look like here. So I'm not an artist, so please don't judge my little drawing here. So number of clicks, over number, the technical name for it is number of impressions. So I'll just put IMP for impressions. And impressions are simply the number of times that your website comes up in the search results. So your click-through rate is this formula. So kind of going back to our example, 100 people search for Dia's Korean pop website a day, so it has 100 impressions, but only 10 people actually click through to the website. So that percentage would be 10 over 100 or 10%. So that would be your click-through rate. So going back to how that's related to meta description, if you have a really good meta description, it can drive up your click-through rate. So it can take your click-through rate from 1% to 5%. And the higher your click-through rate, the better it is for SEO, because Google only wants to return websites that people want to read, that people like. And so one signal of a good website is a high click-through rate. So that's why meta descriptions are very important for SEO. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. So moving forward, so best practices for on-page SEO, heading tags. So remember heading tags, you know, kind of like if you're writing a paper for school, this is how you would pretty much organize your paper. So you have your heading 1 tag, which is kind of like your page title. Your heading 2 and your heading 3 tags are kind of like the different bullet points that you want to focus on for your paper. It's the same way for a web page. So you're going to have, you know, for your SEO, I would focus on your heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3 tags. So just one thing, it's okay if your heading 1 tag is the same as your page title. In fact, as you guys are just starting off, it might just be best to keep those the same, just to make sure both are optimized. Always just make sure that you only want one heading 1 tag per page. So if you have 10 pages on your website, each one of those pages should have 10 different heading 1 tags, right? And I just said that. Number 5, you want to use as many heading 2 tags or as needed. So heading 2 tags, you want to put your different keyword variations. So kind of going back to Joy's website, singing lessons, that's the keyword that we're targeting. You know, some variations would be singing lessons for toddlers, singing lessons for adults, singing lessons for teenagers. You want to include those as your heading 2 tags. And then, yeah, so I just said that number 6, including those as variations. And I know we're getting close on time here, so I'm going to kind of go quickly through some of these other topics. So best practices for on-page SEO, alt tags. So does anyone remember what an alt tag is?
Alternative tags.
Say that again?
It's like your secondary tags.
Yep, it's a type of tag, but what do alt tags? What do they? I guess I'll give you A, B, C, or D. So A, they go with images. B, they go with video. C, they go with content. Which one do they go with?
Content.
Nope. So it's actually images. So yeah. So did someone say that? I didn't hear you. You have to speak louder.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. That would be the name that will appear in case the image is not showing correctly on your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the applications of an alt tag. If the image doesn't load, then it will show that phrase, that keyword. So yeah, absolutely right, Dia. Another application, if someone is visually impaired, so they can't actually see what's on your website, that keyword, you know, they'll basically call out what that alt tag is. So they're not able to see that image, so it'll actually tell them what the image is about. So just some best practices for on-page SEO. Use your primary and secondary keywords plus your brand name. So for your alt tags, so going back to Jarek's website, photography website. So let's say he had a article about beginning lessons for photography. So that would be your primary keyword, and then you would have your company name at the end. So the entire alt tag would be beginning lessons for photography, Jarek's photography company. And that would be your alt tag. Number 2, you don't want to use the same alt tag for each picture. So you want to vary the keyword used. So going back to our first example, so let's say we use beginning lessons for photography, Jarek's photography company for the first picture. For the second picture, we want to switch it up a bit. So maybe we use something like top photography tips for beginners, Jarek's photography company. The main thing there is that you want to make sure that you change out the primary keyword with something else that's very similar. Oh, yeah, alt tags, they're pretty straightforward. So really only 2 recommendations there. But if you guys do have questions, once you start working on your own websites, feel free to reach out about that part. Other SEO best practices for images. So you want to actually save the image file with your primary or secondary keyword in the file name. So going back to Jarek's example, beginning lessons for photography. So you actually want to save the .jpeg or the .png file as beginning lessons for photography .png or .jpeg. That's something that even people who do SEO regularly don't do, but it's a very good good strategy to use. You don't want to over optimize, and what I mean by over optimize, you'll see cases where someone uses the same keyword everywhere, right? So they'll use beginning lessons for photography in their page title and all of their heading tags and their file names for their images and their alt tag. And you don't want to do this because, yeah, it just looks really spammy. It's a great way to get your website penalized. So you want to make sure that you just, diversify the keyword phrases that you're using for your different keywords.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Is there a limit on how many times you are going to use that keyword in one website?
So what I recommend, so for your primary keyword, only use that on one page. So what that means is that each page on your website would have a different primary keyword. Does that answer your question, Dia?
Yes.
Okay. And that's where the keyword map will really help you. You'll kind of know, okay, I wrote this article several months ago. This is the primary keyword I used. I might have forgotten that, so I'll make sure I won't use that primary keyword again. Okay. Number 2, you want to keep your images under 100 kilobytes. And next week we'll go into a little bit more detail about why that's important. But you don't want very large image files on your website because they slow down your website load speed. So if someone's using their mobile phone or they don't have a great internet connection, you don't want it to take a long time for your website to load. Joy, have you ever been on a very slow website? That took a long time to load? Yeah, and it's kind of frustrating, right? Because you're trying to get some information, and yeah, you're just waiting there, waiting for the website to load. So you want to make your website again very user friendly. And so there's actually an image compression plugin that I use. I'll share it in the homework resources. But compression is one way that you can make the image file size smaller. So you can go from 100 kilobytes, for example, to 60 kilobytes. Number 3, you want to use unique images and avoid stock photos if possible. Right, so if you guys are able, Jarek, you're a photographer, so this is right up your alley. You want to use your own images on your website, not something that you just grab from another website. And so, very popular stock photo website includes Shutterstock. I think that's probably the biggest one. But let's say you didn't have a Shutterstock account and you were looking for a free photo. Let's see, where was I? Is it in the other browser? Yeah. So when you're trying to find a free photo on Google, and some of you may already know this little trick. So let's say, my website is about digital marketing. So you would actually go to Tools. So you'll go to Tools, and then you'll go to this third option here, and it has different options. So label for reuse with modification, label for reuse, label for non-commercial reuse or modification, and so forth. And you want to make sure that you pick labeled for reuse. And basically, these are the pictures that, you know, whoever created them, it's called Creative Commons, so they pretty much open it up to the public. So whoever created them, they say, hey, I spent time creating this photo, but I want to make it available for everyone to use on their own websites or wherever. And then you'll just make sure that you'll go to this photo. And I would say, even though it's labeled for reuse, you want to actually click the visit button here. And you want to make sure that there's not any text about attribution, or, you know, if you use this photo, you have to mention that person's name, for example. So you can see here on the right-hand side, it says free for commercial use, no attribution required. But sometimes it'll actually say, if you use this image on your website, you know, you need to make sure that you mention my name or mention my website's name. Now, why am I sharing this with you? So, real life story. So one of my friends, he actually does website design, or he was just starting. So he actually just went onto Google, and for one of his clients, he just grabbed a bunch of images, didn't care about, doing a proper attribution. So 2 years go by, and he gets a call, or it's actually an email from a law firm saying that, hey, we noticed that you're using our clients' images on your website. They aren't free for reuse. We're going to sue you for $10,000. So, and so actually, I think they were able to settle for a lot less. But, you know, I think he maybe used 4 photos and he had to pay $1,000 because he didn't properly attribute those photos to that creator. So I just definitely don't want you guys to get in that situation. You know, if you're working on your own websites or, you know, websites for clients, always make sure that you know the proper attribution for the image, or someone can call you up and say that you owe them money. So very important. So what is this? Okay. Let's go back here. And then finally, the last thing before I show you how to actually do this on a WordPress website. So your URLs. So your URLs, you want to make sure that you include your primary keyword. Don't use numbers, don't use special characters. Always make sure that it's actual, like A, B, C, D, E, F, and so forth. You want to keep your URL under 115 characters. You want to use hyphens instead of underscores. Each page, you know, similar to meta descriptions and page titles, each page should have its own unique URL. And for number 6, you don't want to use capital letters. I know everywhere they call capital different. So here's a bad example here in red. So I actually capitalized Jarek and I capitalized XYZ and company. So that's the wrong way to do it. Instead, you want to lowercase everything. And notice how everything is separated by hyphens. And as you guys do research, you know, do the homework assignments or read some articles, you'll notice that sometimes people call URLs slugs. And that's just another way, you know, people refer to them. So whenever you see slug and referring to SEO, they just mean your URL. And, you know, URL again is just this little box up here. Okay, so I think we're now ready to actually see a demo of how you actually modify all of these things on an actual web page in WordPress. So I'm going to go back to my browser here. So this is a test page. I've already filled it in with some content that I wrote before. So this is pretty much the dashboard, the admin for whenever you're going to add a new page to your WordPress website. So the first little field here where it says enter title, this is where you're going to put your H1 tag. So let's just say for this particular article, I was targeting digital marketing for financial advisors. So that would be my H1 tag. And it follows that the keyword that I was targeting there was digital marketing for financial advisors. And then, we can even incorporate some of the things we learned about marketing and sales. We can say the ultimate guide. Or we can do the 2019 ultimate guide. There you go. So now we have a pretty good page title, or I should say heading 1 tag. Now, you'll notice here we have different texts. So really important to remember, so since you're setting your heading 1 tag here, you don't have to make anything else a heading 1 tag. It does this here automatically. So anything else that you create as a subheading is going to be a heading 2 or a heading 3 tag. So the way to change a tag, you would just highlight it and then go here. And then pick heading 2, heading 3, or so forth. So for this one, I pick heading 2, but let's say I wanted to make it a heading 3 tag, then I would just pick heading 3. So sometimes WordPress acts weird, so you have to do it twice. So it's heading 2. And you'll know because it's a little bit bigger than before. So this is our first image. So this is how we create alt tags for our images. So we go to the edit button. Here is going to be the little pencil icon. And we're actually going to add the alternative text. So alt text is short for alternative text. This is where we're going to add our alt tag. So kind of based on what we just went over, we want to include our primary keyword, digital marketing for financial advisors, and then we want to include our company name. So this brand would be Financier SEO, right? And then you can modify the size of the image, the alignment of the image. Something that you might want to start doing that I see emerging in SEO is using a caption for the image. So it can be like something like just a description of what that image is about. Those are all good things to include. And typically everything else I leave blank and then just hit update. Now, how familiar are you guys with WordPress?
They are beginners.
Beginners? Okay. That's good to know. So is this your first time kind of seeing the content editor? Okay. Yeah, that's good. So I'll keep that in mind. Maybe I'll share with you some other WordPress focused videos just to kind of get you up to speed. Let me make a note of that.
If also, Leonard, if you can suggest any good plugins that we could use for our website, that would be great.
Yep, you're ahead of me, Diaz. So actually one of your homework assignments is going to be to install several plugins. And so when you're actually doing this for your own website, I recommend that you install WordPress, and then your next step is to install the plugins. That way you'll have all of these features that I'm going over here in the video. Okay? Jarek, did you have a question? Yeah. Okay.
About the alternative tags, is it always necessary?
Which one?
Alternative tags.
The alt tags?
Yeah.
Is it, what was the second part of your question?
Is it necessary?
Is it necessary?
Yep, it's very necessary, and here's why. So I already talked about if someone is not able to see the image, but let's say that, I think, using your photography example, the images that you use in your content, you want those to be really good, right? And, typically if someone is searching for photography, they're going to be returned with pictures. And so by using the alt tag, And you can't see this here, but if someone was searching on a mobile device, you'll actually see at the top of the search results what's called an image carousel. So it'll basically be a collection of images. And this is something you guys can try, tonight or tomorrow. Just try searching for something like on your mobile phone. And sometimes they'll actually have several images at the top of the search results. And basically what that alt tag does is if you include your keyword as part of the alt tag, it'll help your image show up in an image carousel. Also, if someone was doing a Google image search, so let's say, beginning, the keyword we were talking about was beginning lessons for photography, right? So if someone did this search, you can see these are the type of things that are coming up. And so someone might skip the regular Google search altogether and go straight to Google image search. That happens all the time. And that alt tag, again, will help your image show up well here. And then, of course, when you click the image, that didn't work. You'll, if they want to visit your website, they'll just click this visit button here. So that's just another way to get traffic to your website. And it all starts with optimizing your image with the alt tag. Does that answer your question, Jarek?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so back to our website. So we talked about how to set the H1, the heading 1 tag, the heading 2 tag, the alt tag. And now let's talk a little bit about the other tags we went over, namely the meta description, the page title, and the URL. So for this part, we actually use a plugin called Yoast. And I recommend that when you all get started on the homework this week, that you install it as soon as possible. It's going to become your best friend when you're doing SEO, because all the different technical things that we talked about, by making sure that your title tag is a certain length, making sure that it includes your target keyword. The cool thing about Yoast SEO plugin is that it looks at all of these things for you, right? So we have to scroll all the way down. Okay. So once you install Yoast SEO plugin and enable it, you're going to see this little section at the bottom of your section of your content. You'll know it'll just have Yoast SEO here in the top left-hand corner. And then when you hit edit snippet, you're going to give your page a page title. So, we were, our target keywords, digital marketing for financial advisors. For financial advisors. And then I like to use pipe symbol. Some people like to use hyphens. It just depends on, whichever looks better for you. So see how it just turned green? This little bar here. So that means that it's the right length. So this particular page title, it's not too short or not too long. You'll see what happens if I added some other stuff here. So we just added, see it turns orange. That means it's too long. So that's how you would set your page title. Your slug, again, that's your URL. Again, you want to try to include your target keyword. So digital marketing. I'm not going to use for, and I'm going to actually send you guys a handout on why we wouldn't use for. But basically, it's called a stop word. And what a stop word does when it reviews a URL, so basically there are certain phrases, certain words that have special meanings in computer language. And so when you put those special words into a URL, it'll basically tell the computer to stop. And so since our keyword is digital marketing for financial advisors, we obviously want to include the financial advisors part. So for is actually one of those stop words that we don't want to include. So instead of including for, we would just skip it. So it would just be digital marketing financial advisors. Okay. And then for your meta description, this is where you can get creative. So our primary keyword is digital marketing for financial advisors. So let's say, are you a financial advisor looking to improve your digital marketing in 2019? Check out our ultimate guide for digital, let's do ultimate, back up, let's do digital marketing ultimate guide for financial advisors. Okay, so that's very simple. I don't really like that one, but I think you guys get the point. I'll probably go back in here and add the year and maybe add some more power words too. So maybe, are you a desperate financial advisor or something like that? But you can see here, once I added it, it made the meta description too long. So you kind of have to play around with it to make sure that you're using the things we went over, the best practices and some of the secret sauce, but you also include it in the right length. Because if it's too long, you'll see what happened here. If you use a meta description that is too long, you'll just cut it off, like you can see here. And so you may not be able to communicate your complete point, your complete idea, if your meta description is too long. So that's really why you want to keep it the right length. So let's go ahead and delete desperate, but that's where you would modify your SEO title, your slug, and your meta description. Now, your focus keyword, that's going to be your primary keyword for the page. So again, that's digital marketing for financial advisors, okay? And then the cool thing about Yoast is that it's going to give you, so we're not going to focus on readability today, but we're only going to focus on the SEO score. So you can see here, it gives you, it's highlighted in orange, and it gives you kind of a message that it's okay. But we want to do better than okay. That's kind of just average. So we can come down here and look at the analysis on how we can improve our page for SEO for that particular keyword. So some of the keywords here, some of the things we can fix. The focus keyword doesn't appear in the first paragraph of the copy. Make sure the topic is clear immediately. So basically what that is saying is we should take this phrase and add it somewhere in our first paragraph. So let's see how we can do that. We scroll all the way back up here. So I'm just going to put a nonsense sentence just to make sure we fulfill that. This guide on digital marketing for financial advisors is the answer you've been looking for. Now, if anyone was paying attention, over here on the right-hand side, this went from okay to good. So just by making that change, adding digital marketing for financial advisors, we were able to improve the Yoast SEO score for this page. But just for demonstration purposes, I want to go through these other points too. So the keyword density is 0%, which is too low. The focus keyword was found 2 times. So basically what that is saying, and just speaking from experience, it wants you to add that particular phrase, digital marketing for financial advisors, more times in the content. And the keyword density is basically, so you take how many times that phrase is in the content over the total number of words. So let's say if you use digital marketing for financial advisors 1 time in the content, and then there were 100 words in the content, then the keyword density would be 1%. So just that percentage, that ratio. Honestly, keyword density isn't as important as it used to be, but it's still important that you try to, if you have this particular message, that you try to add it more times. So we would just add digital marketing for financial advisors more times in the content. So the next thing here, a meta description has been specified, but it does not contain the focus keyword. So what could have happened there? So are you a financial advisor looking to prove your, what we wrote? So check out our digital marketing guide for financial advisors. So one way we could change that, we can just say, check out our ultimate guide on, again, it made our meta description too long. That's why it's highlighted in red. On digital marketing, we can get rid of this now. And let's see, how did that change that? So you can see here that particular message went away. And then there's also internal links. So internal links, I won't focus on for this video or this session. I'm actually going to create a separate video, and then we can discuss throughout the week if you have any questions. But an internal link in a nutshell is basically where you link from your page to another page on your website through what's called a hyperlink. But in that video, I'm going to go more into detail about that. And then, just so you see what all is included here, so improvements. So these are things that aren't serious issues, but are ways that you can improve the content. Considerations. So the focus keyword, as I mentioned before, it contains a stop keyword. That stop keyword is for, F-O-R. But since if we take it out, it's not going to make much sense. So I would just leave it in there. And then finally, the good things you're doing. So you want to have as many good things in this list as possible. That way, you'll get a green score for your SEO. So I would say when you guys are going through the homework, definitely leverage Yoast SEO because it will really help you with some of these different things we went over. Okay, so I know we're a bit late, so I'm going to wrap up today's session. But any questions on the demo before we do that? No? Okay. So let's go back to our presentation. And just any questions on anything we've covered so far? What's up, Jarek?
We already asked.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, so, well, okay. So hopefully you guys have more questions after you start on the homework. So the homework for this week, list is a little bit longer than last week, as you'll notice. But basically kind of just want you to sign up for the free versions of SEMrush and Ahrefs. And I'm going to provide links to all of this in the Google Drive folder this week. Everything should be uploaded by tomorrow morning your time. But just want to make sure that we kind of go over this. And just kind of, I want you to review some of the concepts that we went over today and just kind of, start thinking about these things for your own website. So that's pretty much 2 through 4. Number 4, perform keyword research about your customer avatar. So whatever your website is about that you guys are working on, figure out who your customer avatar is and then do some keyword research based on what we went over today. Number 5, write a few articles for your website. Again, good SEO. It starts with good content. And the way you start creating good content is just start publishing articles. And number 6, review your articles in the Hemingway app. I'll provide a link to that in the resources folder. Number 7, Thea, you were asking about this, install plugins on your site. So again, you'll have that list there. And then 8 through 10, just kind of reviewing some enrichment articles I think will help kind of drive home some of the things that we went over today. And then 11 through, 11, just do the on-page SEO for your website. So just how we did with that example page, install Yoast SEO, and just optimize it so to where at least you're getting a green score for your SEO. And then number 12, as I said, I'm going to create a separate video where I talk about internal and external linking and what that is and how do you do it for your website. And then finally, number 13, here are some just questions that I want you all to go through. And don't worry about this. This will be in this presentation will be in the Google Drive folder. But yeah, just some questions to make sure everyone understood what we discussed today. And then you'll notice some of these questions, they're kind of highlighted in blue. So those are meant to be a little more difficult, and I expect for you to spend a little bit more time on them. But yeah, just a heads up, those are that's the homework assignment for this week. So if there aren't any questions, I know it's late where you guys are. I think we could wrap up today's session. So anything else before we wrap up for today?
No.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, let's definitely try to communicate on Slack during the week if you have any questions. You all have a good and safe evening.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye.